Next thing to think about is what maturity level do I need to reach? In other words, what do I want out of my methodology? If we look at the bars across the top, we think there's probably 4 stages of change level maturity. There's what we call rudimentary. I just basically need people that can do communications and training. It's often the kind of change management that's offered by some of the big consultancy firms to support IT implementation. It's used in a number of organizations, and it's a kind of mindset that change management is essentially about communications and training. The next level of maturity that organizations often move to is we call tactical here. You could call it, and basically what we mean by that is it's project-based. That we're going to use change management methodology on this project because this project is so important, needs something extra, but the other 10 projects are not going to have that kind of support. So it's very situational. It's often caused by some feelings of pain, that this project is going to fail and that we need to kind of rush in. And we quite often have had that experience with clients. Often our first engagement with clients actually is they call us and say, we began to implement this project, but unfortunately we've kind of got stuck, and we kind of realised that's something to do with people. We had a major IT client a couple of years ago where that was exactly that case. They had started trying to implement the project without any change management support, or very little, what we might call rudimentary, only to discover there were some kind of much deeper issues that needed to be dealt with. Organisational is really to do with, we're going to use change management on all our big projects. This is going to become part of what we do, but it's still very project-based. Quite a well-known writer in change management, a guy called Daryl Connor, calls it bolt-on. It's that we decide to do the project, and then, we need change management. And so you begin to get the embryonic buildings of kind of change management capabilities. Finally, institutional really is that change management becomes part of what we do. So to give you an example of that, we have a client, for example, who part of their project's approval process always has to be that there has to be a high-level change management plan. And there has to be analysis of what is going to be the likely change management enablers for the project, but also the change management barriers. In a company that kind of has, or an organization that has institutional change management, you might see more discussions at the executive level about the capacity to deliver change. It's all right for us to have all these initiatives that we want to implement, but will they in reality get implemented? You might see, we have a client in South Africa, for example, who spent a lot of time working on kind of project portfolios. So to what extent could, rather than looking at it project by project, let's look at the total load that we're trying to deliver to the organization in terms of change and work out, is that deliverable? If it's not, how do we cut it back? That leads you to decide, I think once you begin to decide on your level of maturity, you can then begin to decide who we need to change. And we've broken this into three groups. I guess they overlap a little bit, but it seems to us that you could begin to sort of map this against the maturity model here. Who? Well, the first one is pretty much aligned with tactical. We train project members in a just-in-time basis. So we have this project, we get the project team members or a group of those, a sub-team of those, and we train them in change management. The next one, COE, stands for Center of Excellence. We see that quite often in a number of clients where they decide to build a center of excellence for change management. So they may have a business change group. They may have an internal consulting group. And these become the people who kind of are experts in change management and go out and work with the organizations on a kind of request basis, usually from executives to say, look, this is so important. We'd like to put 2 people on this team from the center of excellence. The last one says all. And I guess our experience is if you really want to begin to move and institutionalize capabilities, a couple of things have got to happen. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these. But I think the overwhelming argument would be that you have to train more than a center of excellence. more than a project team. You have to begin to build capabilities in the executive team, in management, executives, managers, change agents, and probably help the people, frontline people, etc., become more adaptable to change. So there's going to have to be a more holistic approach, and the numbers are greater.